I mean, you even kind of did some research on how do I get away with this, knowing that this is on my laptop, and then it gets turned over to the police. If that doesn't happen, where are you right now? Like, if you never get caught, then I think it's safe to say that it would have continued, right?
Certainly.
Welcome back to Other People's Lives. I'm Joe Santagato.
I'm Greg Dybec.
For anyone out there that would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Today, we're speaking to a man who is a convicted sex offender and pedophile. Over 15 years ago, when he was in his early 20s, he was caught with child pornography on his laptop while he was studying at Bible college. He ended up serving several years in prison, and he says that after serving time, he has not consumed any underage material and says that he has zero urge to. He wrote a line in his email. It says, "There's aspects about pedophiles that I really don't understand, but because of my experience, I believe I do understand a lot more than the average person." So we've got the guest on, and we're going to learn his story and kind of jump into his mindset around all of this. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Great. Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I'm kind of, we'll see how this goes.
No, totally. So to start, this is interesting. You mentioned you were at Bible college. Can you just, give us a brief overview of just your life at the time, like general age, the setting that you were in? What exactly were you studying for, and what did you imagine your life being?
Definitely, yeah. We can even go a little bit before that in later high school, because I had, while looking at, searching for regular gay porn, as a teenager, you just type in, naked boys, naked whatever, random stuff pops up. So it did pop up randomly sometime late high school. Like
underage material specifically, you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It was pictures at first, kind of very, very, like a one-off kind of thing. And then later on, I discovered that you can also download songs and videos on LimeWire. And, if you remember those days,
yeah, very well.
Yeah. You can easily switch it to video and maybe download porn. And so therefore I discovered as well there. So it popped up again on LimeWire and started out of, that's interesting. I knew exactly what it was, especially the first picture too. And it just snowballed from there very slowly at first. And then out of just more curiosity, this is interesting. Doesn't seem that bad. And it just went from there.
So you're saying you like stumbled upon child pornography on the internet?
Yeah, it was quite random, and I haven't actually accidentally stumbled upon it since, really, as far as just pictures go on a website. It was just kind of odd how random it was.
And this was high school, so roughly, what is that, like 16, 17 or so?
Exactly. Yeah. It was just a website, and they were just still pictures, posing. So,
Are these of people that were like essentially around your age at the time or younger?
They were younger. Yeah. They were, if I was 16, 17, they were probably like 8 to 14 looking. So 8 to 15.
You were seeing pictures of 8 to 10-year-old boys, and you're like, enjoying that and then exploring that?
It was odd at first. They were just posing nude at that very first instance, but they were reading about it, reading on the website. It was Eastern European, and they seemed to have famous names to them at first as well. So it's, looking back, it was kind of a long time ago. So that's kind of as most detailed I can think of. But they're just, obviously they had bruises on them as well, which is very odd. And I thought I knew exactly, like I said, I knew exactly what it was. but they're just posing, no smiles, no nothing, just naked, weird. It was weird.
When you say like what it was, what do you mean by that?
Well, I knew that they were most likely an abused setting where they were having to do that from adult men for other people's pleasure. So I'm sure they were involved in a sexual activity with each other or with other men too. So
how do you stumble upon that? That sounds like very not like specific type of things. Like I feel like if you typed in naked men or something, like an abusive child pornography site wouldn't necessarily pop up.
True. It's actually a conundrum the more I think about it right now, as I tell you. But yeah, that is the very first time I ever saw anything that was underage. There wasn't really anything beyond that, though. It didn't have any further things to explore other than just those pictures. It was just weird, this calendar, like online calendar, and each month had different pictures. So it didn't really go beyond that as far as anything to explore. It was, I've always been fascinated by train wreck stuff. I love crazy stuff and out of the ordinary and bizarre. So it was obviously very bizarre. So I didn't get completely grossed out and exit out of it out of fear and go hide under my bed. I was just like looking at it and I knew what it was. I knew they were being abused, and because they just didn't have any smiles, they had some bruises. I'm like, why? It was weird. At first, it was not appealing as far as sexual goes, but later on, when I discovered you can download porn on LimeWire and such, that's when it was a lot more rampant and a lot more easy. And I discovered it on there as well.
So is that something that you continued to pursue as you got older?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. It snowballed surely and progressively. So the LimeWire thing about maybe when I was senior in high school. Once I knew the stuff was out there, then at some point I tried it out as far as trying to download more and see what else I could find, and it just went from there, and it continued on through college days.
So you were actively going out of your way to download child pornography. Did you know at the time that like this is wrong and illegal and I shouldn't be doing this?
I knew it was illegal. With wrong is let's say no, I did not know it was wrong. When the very first image, why am I stuck in that first image now? But the very first images that I saw on that website, they were bruised, they weren't smiling, they just they had no life in their eyes. Yes, I knew that was wrong for that to happen to them. But then after you go back out of curiosity and say, just view more of these videos and more images, it became more and more okay in my mind, even though it was illegal. I knew it was illegal the whole time.
So was it an urge that you were battling, or you, at this point, you were just open about it? This is what you wanted to consume and this is what you searched out?
Soon enough, it became something to constantly search and more enjoy rather than it. More than just curiosity. The curiosity turned into enjoyment after realizing that no harm done. It looks like they're having fun. They're not abused, if you can say. We can go over that later. So the reinforcement of masturbating to it eventually, and if that makes sense. Like, a lot of people think that underage pornography is just this abuse of a man with a child that is like this rape scene. And that's the vast majority. That's not what it is. Unfortunately,
I mean, it is that
like,
it is.
there's a man behind the camera for sure.
Well, no, I'm
I
saying
knew
like
that.
it would be statutory rape for a of age man to be having sex with a minor.
Oh, certainly, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. The difference between
You're
one
saying
time,
like the first time you saw it, like the kids looked unhappy, but now you're getting some sort of validation in this thing that you know is wrong because now they look happy.
yeah,
Even though
exactly.
like
They
even though you
appear
said
to be having
yourself
fun.
right, but you also said yourself like you know that this is wrong and illegal. So like are the children having fun or are
I
they
knew it was
just
illegal.
You're right.
Yeah, I knew it was illegal the whole time. As far as wrongness, like I said, the first images, I don't know where we're going to get stuck on that because that just set the premise, which changed very shortly after the first. What I was downloading these videos were vast majority were just like a mid to older teen being with a younger, whatever age, like 8 with a 14-year-old kind of thing. That was the vast majority of it, where it was not there. They didn't have bruised legs or they didn't have lifeless faces. It was just like they were just having fun together, and then it was more and more okay in my mind, where I didn't think it was wrong because they seemed to be having fun. This is like the mindset that I was having at the time, and it snowballed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about what this ultimately snowballed to and how you got caught?
Yeah, it's practically throughout college, it became this force, this entity that was more and more consuming me throughout the years. During the day, I was everyone's what they thought who I was. I was this nice guy, studying to be a missionary of all things. And at night, I would be this like disastrous pervert that was in his own world, thinking everything was okay without what I was doing, and I didn't see any harm with it, and didn't think it would really cause any issues. Until later on, it does affect the mind. It was certainly changing how I interacted. I was working with kids for years, even long before I discovered the first illegal images. So it would be that I was babysitting, I was tutoring, working at, oh goodness, churches, after school programs. I was building this career, which came first. I had this passion in my heart to become like this missionary, to be like an orphanage leader and such. But
Did this spill over into your life? Sorry to cut you off. I just have to ask because it's shocking to hear that you were working with children also, and in a religious setting, which I think goes without saying is obviously pedophilia runs rampant in those institutions. Like, what did this urge spill over into your real life? Like, did you ever look at minors in a sexualized way, or was it like purely separate and this online world?
More and more it did spill over. Yeah. It's not how any of it started. Yeah. I would, as babysitter, I was the best babysitter that everyone thought I was. So for the majority of it, but yeah, I did have thoughts of, maybe if this opportunity came up, or it'd be really fun if this happened. And the more I talked to other, like people online, you get to know, like online, you can somehow meet other men who are into it and you just email back and forth, or however you do it in the day. There was messengers that you met at, and maybe even the Yahoo chat rooms and such. But yeah, just going back and forth and bouncing back and forth ideas with other men online reinforced even worse these ideas. And as I told them that I was working with kids, they like, oh, you should probably do this, you should try to do that, can you do that, and see if you can get pictures. And like, they're just
At what point did you realize, like, I am a pedophile?
Oh, I would say without that exact word, even when I was a teenager, if you're from, yeah, obviously, even I don't know any actual pedophiles who actually said they were a pedophile and were proud of it. But
are you able to say that about yourself now, in hindsight?
No.
Why not?
In hindsight, let's say, yeah, it's real. Actually, still weird to say it.
But you can admit that is the case.
I would, yeah, I can.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like to say that, but yeah.
I mean,
oh goodness.
So you like, you're saying it's like difficult, but you acknowledge that you're a pedophile.
Not present tense. No, it seems off to say that present tense. Not even in a embarrassing way. It just doesn't seem accurate. Just I am to say I am.
But you were a pedophile, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So what is that change? Yeah. Like, I know this question jumps ahead from kind of the storyline here, but I think this conversation is heavier than we even imagined originally. And like to like offer this platform and speak to, like, it's very difficult for us to hear everything we just heard. How does that change happen? And like, can people change? And if you claim you did, how does that happen? Like, can that get rehabilitated? How does that urge just completely disappear? And like, how can people trust that?
Oh, I don't think you can get anyone to trust it. That's one of the difficult parts too. But can you even trust yourself as well? Everyone still goes through that if they're trying to get over it. But it's kind of like that bridesmaids argument where, people change, but they're still the same. No, they're the same. But it's, in a way, everyone is pliable, especially when they're younger. The older you get, the less pliable you seem to be, but you can still change. It's all about the heart. Getting caught, going to prison, it's having that exposure and getting slapped in the face with a truck, and so to speak, and waking up and being away from the porn, those images finally, and not reinforcing it almost every night. That first of all, taking that away was one of the bigger things too, but talking with people, getting to know their stories in prison, or my friends finally opening up, and people were willing to talk to me, at least, just getting to know their stories, and if they were abused or if they abused others or what have you, seeing it in a different light, and then crying with people and somehow hearing their stories, and seeing how I hurt people, even though it wasn't physical or anything. I hurt people. I can definitely say that very easily, that I just saw in their eyes. I expected all this anger, but what I got was like this immense sadness in everyone when I was telling them what was happening, and just all this crying, and it just broke me down as well. So over the first year or two, it just that mindset change. And it was just a realization of what I was doing, what I was participating in, and realizing that no, I should not look at this stuff and get involved anymore, not because it's illegal, but because it is wrong. Somehow that just switched, and there's just a realization, and that once that was able to be turned over that way, then that grew instead of the the images which were being reinforced back in the day. So
yeah, and I mean, can we talk about the actual incident, like where you were caught? What were you caught with? How did you get caught? Can you just kind of explain that situation?
Certainly, yeah. So at the very end of, it took all 4 years, but I had this horrible virus because of the downloaded images and such. It was so bad that I actually couldn't even turn on the laptop, whatever. So I turned my laptop in to get fixed at the IT department at the college, knowing that it was on there, knowing that they could possibly come upon it. But after reading all these stories of, the Catholic Church is trying to keep it secret, so they don't tell anybody, they don't tell authorities, they'll just keep it and punish the person personally, kind of thing. I took that risk, and that's not what happened. They saw it, called the authorities, and ultimately they turned my laptop over to the police, where later on I was arrested for it. And yeah.
So I mean,
so I was one of the idiots.
I mean, it's like, you're saying that this urge has completely left you because you were able to create some distance because you were in jail. But you even kind of did some research on how do I get away with this, knowing that this is on my laptop, and then it gets turned over to the police. If that doesn't happen, where are you right now? Like, if you never get caught, then I think it's safe to say that it would have continued, right?
Certainly. I think about that a lot. Yeah. If it had,
so, I mean,
I'd never fully, I would have continued deeper, and much, much worse things would have happened for certain.
Right. And so when you're saying like it's gone, that's a little hard to believe, because it feels like there's still this deep rooted thing kind of in you. But the reason why you don't is because you got caught, and now you know that there will be massive repercussions. And like, I don't know, can you just kind of explain how that just goes away from a person, or is it not away and it's something that you have to deal with every day?
Well, I don't not do it because of I got caught. It was a major factor of it, of course, and being pulled away from it. But I was saying it's through talking with people, through talking with friends and their stories, and how they were telling me of their abuse and all this stuff, and crying with them, and these realizations, and that got me realizing that it was wrong because of people telling me their stories.
And we also have Squarespace. Squarespace is where you're going to build your website, okay? Your website is your first impression. It's very important, whether you have a small business, you're selling clothes or a service, or you make content, you need a website as just like a landing page or something. You're going to want to build those things with Squarespace. All of the websites that we build are with Squarespace, and it's the best one. I've used other ones in the past, and it's just not it, okay? So Squarespace is the best. They have a bunch of templates that make it very easy to build a professional-looking website in a short amount of time. You literally could click on something and just switch out the pictures and the text to fit your business, and you're good to go. And they also have a lot of tools to help you optimize your traffic, help grow your audience. So everything, it's an all-in-one place for a website, exactly what you need and what you want when you are building a website. So go to squarespace.com/OPL, use the code OPL at checkout, and you will save 10% off of your first purchase of a website or a domain. Okay, so that is squarespace.com/OPL. Use that code OPL to save 10% off of your first purchase of a website or a domain. All right, enjoy.
Is there therapy and counseling as well that's mandatory?
Oh, okay. So in the prison I was in the state, I had a total of 1 hour per month of counseling that was offered. So that sucked. I wanted a lot more, actually. I wanted to.
I feel like it should be a lot more.
Yeah. I just didn't have enough time to get into a big long-term program. So the state had nothing for me. What I wanted was an inpatient treatment center. That would have, sorry, you can hear my dog gnawing on something. Yeah, I was actually hoping for an inpatient treatment center.
And when you got out, did you seek anything like that, or do you actively do anything now?
Yeah. So yeah, during prison, I was getting to know people's stories, and that's when the switch happened, knowing that it was wrong and that I was hurting people. But I was still like very scared that I would just go right back to it as soon as I got out, and it was just very, very nervous about that. The day I was released, it was all happy. Family was excited. I was out, and but I guess in those first few moments when it all died down and I'm just laying in my bed, no, I did not have this urge to go out and get a phone or get a laptop and go to it. It was not there. I was assessing my feelings all the time for years after that. But I did not have an urge. I definitely wanted to look at porn in general, like regular gay porn, adult gay porn. But it could also have been out of fear. But even after all these years, no, I do not have an urge to look at anything underage. I'm not here to convince people that that's the case. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to really just. I've always wanted to be part of like a Q&A with parents or teachers or police and just answer questions about the matter and get to know like why it happened and how can people change if they can. But yeah, it's I don't need anybody to believe or trust that I'm not into it. That's for me only and people who are around me.
So you're saying the reason why you kind of came on the show, because I'll be honest with you, when we got the email, I'm like, what is the conversation here? I don't understand why someone wants to tell us that, because a lot of people like who are convicted for pedophilia or like they're a sex offender or something, you have to register so people know, and that's like, that hurts them in some way. It's hard to get hired, this and that. So you kind of like offering up this information and wanting to have a discussion, like what is the ultimate goal? Like you want to inform people on how it starts, or that there's a possibility that people can change? Like what is the actual goal for having this conversation with us?
That's what we're still trying to figure out. I think it's, I've always wanted to inform people if they're willing to, have the conversation. So if people do have questions for me, like why it happened and such. So I know that there's a lot of information that people are wanting to know out there. You hear most of the stories are from victims as well. They should be heard by everyone and anyone that's willing to listen. I think to know the whole story, there is never an excuse for this behavior, for these actions whatsoever. I think with having this experience, whatever you want to call it, I'll just call it an experience of life, that to just live my life in shame and try to be hidden the rest of my life would not really be, like, I'm not trying to be out there either, but when people have questions, I love to answer them because they're searching for some kind of
understanding,
reasoning out there. Yeah, they want to understand. They want to. The more people understand things, the less they fear of it, and maybe they should be fearful of it too, because it's incredibly destructive. But
to that point, what do you feel is the most helpful or valuable just insight or piece of information that you can give someone?
Yeah, I was thinking about what people would want to hear or what they would even believe is really difficult to come to any kind of conclusion.
I mean, that wouldn't really be helpful. I mean, if you're trying to have people understand, then whatever is the truth to you is what people should kind of hear. And also, you were saying like you wanted to have people have understanding of like how it begins. And I mean, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that you kind of described it in the beginning of this conversation is you got started down this path because you accidentally saw something and then it snowballed. So like, but is that actually how this would begin in somebody else? They would just see something and then it would be like, well, if you see it at a young enough age, then you could go down this path.
Yeah, the more pliable you are as you are younger, because I was, a mid-teenager. So the more you soak things in at that age, no matter what it is. And why did I keep going back versus somebody else at the same age, different personality that would have, shut the computer off and hide under their bed? So why did I keep going back? There's some questions I don't know either, and I might never know.
Do you have an answer for just what pedophilia is? I mean, is from your belief and your experience, is it a mental illness? Is it something that people can be conditioned to have an urge for? I mean, I know that's a very difficult question and a question that a lot of people ask, and I don't know if an answer will be found, but from your experience, what do you believe?
There's two main roots of it. One actually is power. You have power over the child. So if you can't control women your own age, then you go to this young girl or young boy that you are able to control and get your urges out so easily, so you don't have to be rejected by a woman. That's a different concept to me. The other branch of it is actual like attraction or thinking it's beautiful and you want to experience that beauty. So everyone thinks, little boy and little girl, they're adorable, they're cute, whatever. But the difference is, as a sexual being, you want to turn that into a sexual thing for some reason. The images and videos were reinforcing it constantly that these children are sexual beings, but they're not. It was put on them. It was forced on them.
Right, but you knew that, like you were kind of seeking that out. Like it almost sounds like you're saying that because these images existed, that's what reinforced it in you, but you're seeking them out. Where I'm assuming now, probably not impossible because people have child pornography, but there's much stricter rules on the internet now than there probably was back then. But still, back then, like you still had to go out of your way to seek out this type of thing, knowing that it's illegal. So, I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Like that's tough to kind of wrap my mind around. Like making it seem like, if these images didn't exist, or, the images were the things that reinforced it, but it's like, but you're reinforcing it by like going and looking at the images. You know what I mean? Like, whereas you describe someone seeing a photo and being like, okay, not for me, close the laptop, walk away. But you look at it, it makes you feel something, and then you go back to it a bunch of times. That sounds like an action that you're doing, not necessarily these images that exist in the world, I'm sure, but you're kind of making the decision to go out and seek them out for a number of years. So, I think that's why it would be difficult for people to believe you that that just up and leaves one day.
Because if it was so inherently, and like an inherence for me to want to go back, like nature versus nurture, I was the one who inherently wanted to go back to it. So why would it not be there anymore just because I had a change of heart? Yeah, I wouldn't believe me either.
Is there a trauma or abuse or anything that you've ever like potentially related to this, or even you mentioned Bible camp, like were you celibate at the time? Like, I know it's also just feels like such a mystery and such a big question around the Catholic Church, and like why is it an epidemic there in that particular institution? But for you, is there anything that you've kind of correlated to those urges from childhood?
I tell people, unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, because it makes it even more of a mystery. Mm-hmm. Because if there was a story like that, then it would make more sense. But unfortunately,
wouldn't all signs point to like it's just inherently like in you, and that's just how you are, like how you were born, in essentially like almost like a sexual orientation, because there's no trauma to point like to where you're like, this is the thing that happened and it kind of set me down this path, which, I'm not saying that's a plausible excuse for pedophilia, but there is something to point to and something to sort of research. And you're saying you stumbled upon a photo and then you went down this path. And there, like I said, there's nothing to kind of point to of like, this is where everything went wrong, or this is when things started to change. And then, this was a trauma response. You kind of just were into this a lot, knowing that it's illegal. So I know you're saying, I don't recognize it as wrong, but I knew it was illegal, but you know that it's illegal. So if you know that it's illegal and you're in college, you know why it's illegal. And you know that like you shouldn't be watching that, but doing it anyway. And then admitting also on this call that if I never got caught, it probably would have spiraled out of control. Like, how come you are so sure when you say that it is not, there is no urges, not in you whatsoever, instead of this feeling of like, this is something that I work on and I've kind of like, I think I'm at a good place with it, sort of like an addiction where it's like people who have addictive personalities and go through addiction, they've abused this thing for so long and then something happens, so they have to get clean. But that doesn't mean it's not in them. It means that like, in 20 years, I could have a beer and then it sets me right back because there's this negative thing in me. But it sounds like you're so sure that it just kind of up and left.
I don't know how to explain it beyond that. Yeah.
But that is what you're saying. You're saying like, that's what it feels like. It feels like it's just gone and there's no way it would come back.
Yeah. Over assessing all my thoughts. After prison, I was actually invited to live with a family, and I was scared at first because like, hey, do you know my story? He's like, yeah, just come on anyways. I trust you. And I lived with them for 4 years, and I had to assess my thoughts. I'm like, okay, this is really happening.
This was a family with a child?
Oh yeah. They had 3. The youngest at the time was 7 when I moved in.
Did you know them?
Coworker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you at the time you moved in with this family and you were kind of assessing your feelings being around children?
I was. Yeah, I was a little scared. I was still scared at that point. It was still just about a year after I got out. So yeah, it scared me to go into it, but I knew myself enough where I was like, not just gonna abuse either. But I didn't want it to infiltrate my mind again either. So, but he knew the story. He was like, I trust you and I'll kill you if you do anything, of course. So it's not like I'm worried about it. I'm like, fine. It was the biggest blessing, but no, over just assessing my thoughts, I was not, over those 4 years, even now, just not interested in wanting to see the boys naked or wanting to go further with any kind of physical touch. It was just like a little bro thing, a big and little bro thing that it became.
Do you have advice? Do you have advice for any pedophiles or people who may be experiencing or battling those urges of what they could do to combat that immediately?
The main thing is getting away from, if they can, any kind of underage images and videos, like getting away from that, because that is reinforcing it every time. When you have an orgasm, that is a chemical reaction in your body that is a positive reaction, and it associates it with the images every time. It reinforces that it's okay because of the chemical as well. So stopping that was one thing. It's wanting to stop this attraction or addiction to any kind of porn is a fear, because if you come out with it knowing that's illegal, whoever you tell can just go to the police as well. So it's this catch-22. You want to get out of it, but you can't reach out to anybody because of fear of how they'll react or what they're going to do. And you don't want to go to prison for it, because what if you don't have to go to prison for it? I don't know. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't.
Do you think that should exist? Like I've heard this theory before, like, can there be like a safe space rehab for people who early on come out and say, I'm having these urges, I might be a pedophile, I can't explain why, help me, and like not just face consequences or go to prison?
Exactly. That has to happen. That really has to have an existence in today's day and age. Because there's nowhere else for anywhere to go. I went online and looking for answers, and I found worse. So, that definitely is a high need in this society, to have that safe space, and people need to know what they can say. If I were to say to somebody, I have these images on my computer, that is an admission of an illegal activity. If I say I'm having these thoughts, that's not illegal. Mm-hmm. So people need to know what they can say as well. So, but
yeah, I mean, there is a difference between like having like thoughts that are bad about something, and then also indulging in something illegal that obviously is very frowned upon by society and everybody. So, I mean, I think those are different things. Like, I think that if people are choosing to indulge in something that they're very well aware is illegal, and it's an urge that they should not partake in, then like that's difficult. That's almost asking someone who, robbed a bank and has the money in their account to be like, hey, I just want to not rob banks anymore. It's like, you already did. You already robbed the bank. Like, if you wanted to fix this problem, fix the problem before you've indulged and before you've kind of like already done something that's going to affect people and hurt people. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference there.
There's a difference, definitely, because once you get that action going, you're rewarded by having that all that money in your account.
Right.
And nothing bad happened to you. Cool. Are you going to keep doing it, or are you going to let it consume you? But there needs to be a safe space for anyone in any level of that to be able to reach out. Otherwise, they're going to have to get caught, and until things get so worse. So But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. There's a lot of this conversation that there cannot be concluded. There is no formula to make it stop, to make a person want to stop, or to think it's wrong or realize. So that's the unnerving part of this entire conversation, is that there's a lot we just cannot control, and it's just getting worse in the world, and it's rampant in rich, poor, every country, oh my goodness, every age, young and old. It's insanely, unnervingly out there.
Yeah,
It's very scary. And I heard you guys say another one of these episodes that you hope it gets better. I don't think it's ever going to get better. Like, as in a general sense, a person can get better. I don't think this epidemic will ever stop. And that is very unnerving and so scary as I say it.
it's terrifying, and more has come to light of the business behind this, which is even scarier, because now people are making money off of this as well, and sex trafficking and child sex trafficking. And it's like, yeah, how does that suddenly stop?
Exactly right. And they somehow, what I was always confused about, like this Epstein stuff, how do they find all these friends of theirs that they can indulge this with, and no one has a conscience and is a whistleblower? I thought that was insane, because I thought everyone is kind of in their own world with it, and just I had these people online I was conversing with and getting ideas back and forth, but in person, no. So I don't know how these pedophile rings actually happen so rampantly, and how they grow.
Well, I think that it has to do with, again, the thing that's bringing these people into the rings is the power dynamic, like you said, and then they're getting double the amount of power, because now they have power over the people that have just entered the ring, because I can ruin your life by telling people, so you have to stay in and you have to play ball, and there's no way out of it. Even if you wanted to get out of it, there is no way, because you can't suddenly stop doing this and stop paying or stop, whatever, because I could ruin your life with something. But at the same time, all of these people are making the conscious decision to get their feet wet. And they maybe are not considering the fact that there's no way out of this. But I mean, I have little sympathy for that, because making the decision to be like, I'm going to indulge in this type of thing for a number of reasons is negative. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that's why, like, you can't get out of it, because that secret that someone else knows about you can ruin your life at any single time. So you essentially become a puppet. You have to do whatever any of these people say that have the secret over you. And if people are going to indulge in something like that, knowing the risks, especially, even if they don't know the risks, I mean, you know that it's wrong, you know that it's illegal, but knowing that there's like a risk like that, like it's hard for me to have any sympathy there. And I mean, because we have to wrap up on time here, but do you have, I guess because of, your claims, and I'm hopeful that you are correct and that it's completely out of you, and that there is a way to, fix people in a sense. Is there advice you have for anybody, or just something, or a message that you wanted to leave our viewers with about that? Because, that ultimately is the reason why you came on the show, I assume, to let people know that, like, here's some misconceptions and here's how I changed, whatever. So is there a message that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, it is one person at a time, no matter what the situation is. Being caught saved a lot. It saved future lives. It saved my life, into just being in this depths of hell. So getting caught is very much a good thing. Prison, depending on the situation, depending on where you get the state, if they have the right programs. If not, they can just rot there for a few years, which, like you said, is what they deserve. It's what I deserved. Fine. I don't think prison changes people for the good. Even after that, it was through talking. It was through people's stories and people willing to share their lives with me. And it's saying, like, without, oh goodness, how do I say this? Just being broken down and maturing into this realization. I don't know how to explain that further, but there are signs that perhaps if you have this friend that you're having, like, you think that they're more weird than the average person, or they are acting differently around children, or just loving them way too much, kind of a thing. There's a way that you can approach that to shut them down, and that they're gonna deny everything and shut you out, or are you able to let them tell their story and then get it out and somehow safely prevent? I don't know. There's, like I said, there's really, it's such a difficult thing to come to any kind of conclusion, because everyone is different. Everybody's situation is different, and how this happens and why it's happening. So that's what I knew was going to happen with this conversation. There's really are difficult ways to have any kind of conclusions like that. But
I mean,
when it's your son that gets caught, or you're one of your good friends that just happened to, like, oh, we didn't know that about him. It can happen to anybody's friends or family. So that's when things change in their mind too. Like, the people who are willing to talk with me are people who have probably met someone in the past who went through this as well. And if you have no experience with this and all you know is just what's on the news, then it's all about let them burn in hell, which they probably will. But it's about the individual person and going at one at a time.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I mean, I think that, is related to a lot of what you said during the conversation of, the changes that you made personally. And like Joe said, we're hopeful, and like, we can only be hopeful, and like, don't even know where it begins, but we can only wish that, progress can be made in the world. But like you said, that's probably have a pretty gloomy outlook on that. But, I know you're not here to, make fans, or like you said, necessarily just convince anyone. You're just, telling your story and how you feel now. So we're hopeful that that's all true and it stays that way for you. And, we can obviously appreciate, what it takes to even come on this platform, anonymous or not, to share everything that you just shared.
I appreciate you having me on too. Yeah, it's more about just being able to get the conversation going, because it's very difficult to talk about, even for me or for you guys who hear all these stories. So it's all about the conversation and awareness. So just looking for those clues, looking for those off things, and see what's going on. So
yeah, certainly.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Wow. All right. Well, I don't really know what to say after that.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore. But that was just, I don't know what I expected going in. That was just one of the most difficult conversations I think we've had on the show. I don't know. There's just, I know he's being very honest about his experience, what he went through, and the urges. But man, when you hear it, and then just hearing the moments that he was working with kids at the time, I wanted to storm out of here.
I also literally I just don't really it's hard for me to buy into this, like, I'm fixed thing, you know, because it wasn't like, oh, I saw something and I enjoyed it. And I just, like, bro, you know it's wrong. It was like years. It was years of that. And admitting, like, it would have continued and it would have got worse or whatever. Like, all right, so, bro, this is like, this is you. This is who you are. Like, why this fucking, like...
Yeah, I thought you brought up an interesting point like that. Like, when you think of the mind of an addict, or that some personalities or just people are wired to be more susceptible to certain things, like, is there just an admission of, like, this is in me?
Yes.
And I have to battle that. Obviously, it is maybe the most taboo thing to talk about in the world. Like, so I can understand, like, if that's the case, if it's a mental illness, if it's something where it's like no one feels like there's a safe space to even be able to talk about these urges and get help. So then you're just staying alone in this deep, dark place and going through those motions. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
I actually think that it's counterproductive to try to tell people, like, I'm completely changed, and that could be the case for everybody. So, like, there is this, like, hope. I actually think it's counterproductive to do that, because
unless he truly believes that, or I mean,
but of course,
I don't know.
But of course, like,
I get what you're saying. It's like, where does it go?
It doesn't have to be this, like, every single day is this, like, crazy battle and I just want to so bad. But, like, if you saw a photo and it sent you down a path, then you know what I'm saying?
Then it's there.
Like, if you, like, are sober 20 years and you have a beer and then that sets you down a path, it's not out.
Yeah.
It's not out of you. You didn't change. You're, like, working every single day towards it, which is fine. You know what I mean? Not that it's fucking fine, but, like, at least it's like, now you're being sort of truthful and you have understanding about what's going on, instead of just trying to be like, I'm done, I did it. And it's like, that's hard for me to buy into.
I mean, that's the general consensus, right? That's why sex offenders have to be registered. It has to be known. If you try to get a job, you know it. If you know, it's because, yeah, that's the general belief, right? That this thing isn't just going to go away in someone. Like, maybe you could rehabilitate to a degree, or not practice this anymore, or go cold turkey, whatever it is. But that fear is always there. Like, this person has to be marked now, because there's no way to just 100% prove that this thing is gone. But
to me, it sounds similar to people who are, I don't know if this is controversial to say, but, like, that are gay, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, they went to fucking
like
conversion therapy. And now it's like, I'm not anymore. And I love, and it's like, bro, I can't buy into this. I'm sorry. So it feels similar to that, where it's like, well, I just, I found out that it was wrong and now I'm just not going to do it. And it's like, I mean, that feels like not true to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it, and I again, I think it's more productive to be like, I don't know why this happened, and I don't want to have this, but this is something that happens, but I have never indulged in it because I know it's wrong. I know it's illegal, and I know it's wrong, and I know it's dangerous, and I don't want to. Somebody help me. That is completely different than, like I said before, you already robbed the bank, and now you want sympathy from the fucking bank.
Well, at that point, yeah, you're probably not even going to turn yourself in for that term, But still, like, if that's what, like, this is essentially a mystery, right? Like, someone seeking help and saying that, even if they don't act on it, is for sure ideal. But I don't know enough what's out there. Where do those people go? You're essentially still signing yourself up to say, like, I'm a sex offender. I still need to be registered. I need, like, if you're admitting,
but you did it. Like, if you want help, then bro, you did it. Like, it's the same thing for if you're an addict for any sort of reason. Like, you have to. That's first step is admitting.
I'm saying if you didn't do it, like, if there's a place for someone to go and say, like,
I'm sure that's very difficult. Urges,
because I'm saying you're essentially still signing yourself up for the same life as if you acted on it or not.
I don't think that you're technically a sex offender until there is action.
Yeah.
Action could be watching shit and going out and whatever, like that is indulging. Like if there are these urges or whatever the fuck, then like, you know, I don't know. But like, yeah, I imagine it's very hard. I don't have an addictive personality. I don't have that disease, which I'm very thankful for. But anybody who has that disease of addiction has to go through, a lot of people describe it as a rock bottom, where it's like you're on your ass and this thing has fucked you up completely, and now you have to get help. But you also have to still admit that you did the thing, you indulged in the thing, and you knew like along the way that you were making mistakes, and you just have to take responsibility for that. This one I get is like very difficult, but like, how much sympathy can I have? Like if you want to keep it a secret and you don't want to do it, or whatever, like if you can't handle it on your own, then you have to admit it.
Yeah, it's almost like in AA meetings or something, right? You get up, you could be 20 years sober, you say, hi, I'm blah, blah, I'm an addict. You know, you don't say, I was an addict.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't be there if you know.
Exactly. And like, unless there is this admission of like, yes, I've done this thing, or I am this person, or I have this thing, then where can you get help? Because it feels like you're not even being honest with yourself. So how is anyone else going to honestly help you or have more understanding of this thing? Like if there were more people who were just like very honest, as hard as it is to listen to, then at least that's like a road to some sort of understanding. But in my eyes, it feels like this feels like you're trying to clean it up in a way, and like that's not helpful.
Yeah, I mean, and in having this conversation, and I think asking him the hard questions, like he doesn't have the answers to all that.
Right.
He can't say why. Like I don't know if he'll ever get to the why, and it's tough. I mean, like we said to him, like he's attempting to have this conversation. I think it's not necessarily a conversation I've heard before. But I don't know if he'll ever have the answers.
I mean, the only positive is that he says that he has never acted upon this in a physical way.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done anything since he got out of prison. Hope that fucking remains the case. That's a positive. But like, if we want to have some understanding, or, you know, if you're trying to sell me on having more sympathy for pedophiles or some shit,
I don't think that's the case here.
well, I don't know. I just like
I don't know.
At points it felt like that, and I was just like, I don't know.
It's a conversation that will continue to bring up more questions than answers. I don't think there's answers here. I think I don't think there's answers. It brings up a lot of questions, but it's
we talking in circles for the next.
Yeah.
For anyone out there who would like to be a guest on our show, hit us up. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com. And look, I mean, I have like that was a very difficult episode, but at the same time, a part of me does appreciate the fact that there's an attempt to try and get people to have some sort of understanding. So we do thank this person.
I do believe he's trying to contribute to something positive.
I agree. I don't think that he's there yet, personally, but that's just my opinion. That doesn't mean that I'm right, but that's just the way that I feel after that conversation. So that's all I'll say. But again, for anyone out there that wants to be a guest on our show, hit us up. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram and TikTok @oplpodcast. And reach out. You never know. We could be talking to you next.
See you next time.